What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the episode of Outlawed Motors. Today we are talking about the transmission goodness and making sure that power gets from there to there. Having more ponies under the hood is always great, but if you can't get them from the engine to the wheels, no turbo is going to see its full potential. Now for this build, I'm not going with the OEM dual mass flywheel. I think it's pretty heavy, and I've heard some benefits for going to a single mass lightened flywheel, which JMTC down in Arizona hooked me up with, along with their ceramic plate clutch. Now the purpose of a single mass flywheel compared to a dual mass flywheel is a quicker response to putting down the power because it's lighter, therefore there's less rotational mass, therefore it can do its thing more efficiently. Now there are some apparent downsides from what I've heard. The dual mass flywheel does reduce chattering and things like that. However, I've heard mixed things about that, whether that's accurate or not, so I will be happy to report once I actually start driving this thing. For my style of driving, and given that this will see track time, if not more, than just occasional track days, I figured going with the lightened flywheel was going to be a better option. Now I went with a mid-weight lightened flywheel because this thing is going to be dailied, although it is going to the track. I mean, I wanted to find some balance between making it drivable on a daily basis where it might be able to handle traffic, and if you know the 401, you know there's lots of it. And also when it goes on the track, it's going to be far more responsive than the dual mass flywheel. Now, the other aspect of putting so much power into this motor is that you do have to do certain modifications to the transmission to make it survive all of the boost that that engine is going to be taking. So I went with JMTC's ceramic plate clutch, which is rated at 450 horsepower. And I mean, I shouldn't exceed that, hopefully. I mean, we'll see, but that will be the nice first step for now. And it should create a lot more grip when I'm shifting and less slippage. Now, I'm not going to pretend to know the full science of all of that stuff. If you want to go check that stuff out, go to Engineering Explained. I'm not the guy to explain it. I just say, hey, cool, ceramic plate clutch, lightened flywheel, throw it in, see what happens. We'll find out for you guys. Now, when you're mounting the clutch fork, make sure that you grease the tips that touch rubber with metal. And also make sure you use moly grease for the axle spline that goes into the engine. You don't want to forget that because, I mean, metal on metal, you do need some grease. Don't use a lot. I was advised just kind of brush it on lightly, so that's what I did. Threw it on and bolted it together. And now it was time to focus on everything else around it. The other exciting thing that I did to the transmission, which I didn't do myself, but I'm super excited that the guys at Wavetrac were happy to get on board, was add one of their spanking brand new Wavetrac differentials in the transmission. And with as much power as I'm hoping to get out of this, I want to be able to put the power down, and especially given that this is front wheel drive, I don't want to floor it and go into the car in the next lane. That's not just the end of it. You can't just put a lightened flywheel, a ceramic plate clutch, and a limited slip differential and expect it to survive if you're putting 25 pounds of boost in this little thing. You have to make sure that the drive axles also can handle it, because unfortunately these drive axles apparently are made of cheese and just don't like to survive when you add anything over like 250 horses. So SneedSpeed hooked me up with their badass 450 horsepower rated drive axles, which should handle it. The best way to think about it is that obviously you're going to be as strong as your weakest link. If your engine is putting out a lot of power and your transmission can't handle it, that's what's going to break. If your differential can't distribute the power, one wheel is going to take it more than the other, and one drive axle is going to take more stress, and that's probably going to be the one that shatters. I'm not an expert in this, but it kind of seems logical to me. If you've got a better answer, or if you've got something that you'd like to correct me with, please leave the comment down below. A really dumb thing that I did that I would highly advise you not to do is to put your transmission oil in before the drive axles are secured in, because I thought I was being smart by doing it because it's hard to access when it's in the engine bay. Well, it turns out that when you put transmission oil inside your transmission when the drive axles aren't in, well, you're getting the gist of it, it leaks everywhere. And so I had also thought that it was a bright idea to put one of the SneedSpeed upgraded drive axles in, because it seemed like it would have been painful to mount the drive axle on the passenger side afterwards. Turns out all of that was completely untrue. Awkwardly enough, I didn't find out that it was dripping until it was in the engine bay, and the cardboard under the engine was getting really smelly and kind of smelled like transmission fluid, and realized that the transmission was leaking out of the drive axle.
This is turning into a disaster.
Which caused more work than the time I was saving from getting to the transmission fluid vein and filling it up while it was the engine bay. In fact, it wasn't even that hard to fill the transmission fluid up inside the engine bay if you've got the right funnel that has the right liter measurements and all that stuff. Pretty much what I had to do was I couldn't just plug the hole with the drive axle. I had to drain the fluid, keep it in a bucket, take the suspension out on the one side, clean it up obviously, put the drive axle in, then refill it. Now when you're talking about the Modal transmission fluid that I'm using for this, which is advised for Wavetrac differentials, that stuff is not cheap. It comes out like $45 or $50 a bottle in Canada. So, I mean, I ended up having to buy 3 bottles because I was 100 milliliters off from the prescribed amount because of all the waste. So don't be stupid. Make sure you plan things out. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to get everything perfect, but I mean, that was kind of an annoyance and cost me probably 4 or 5 hours. What I should have done was mount the engine without a transmission oil, without any drive axles, get it nice and happy, put the drive axles in, and then pour the transmission oil in. I mean, that would have been logical. Now I know knowledge is power. Great, you guys can all laugh at me. Hopefully you learned from a few of the mistakes that I made, which are pretty rookie mistakes, but I'm very excited now that everything is kind of sorted out, put together. If you found this video entertaining, educational, or enlightening, you know what to do. Give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, you also know what to do. Make sure you subscribe and share with any of your Mini Cooper lovers, or anybody else that likes to watch somebody suffer and make mistakes, because this is all for the first time. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.